6 Russian tanks and 1 infantry fighting vehicle moved into the assault. But only minutes later, the formation began to fall apart before it could even reach the Ukrainian defensive line. The remaining vehicles lost their spacing, lost their direction of movement, and the entire attack started slowing down at the most dangerous possible moment. On the battlefield in Ukraine, an assault does not always fail because of a lack of tanks or firepower. Sometimes it fails because the formation is pulled into the wrong position at the wrong time, in a battle space where nearly every movement can already be tracked in advance. Once the attack loses its rhythm, the rest of the column is often forced to choose between pushing forward through confusion or turning back under fire, closing in from multiple directions. So how has Ukraine created this kind of ambush zone? Why can a single disruption at the front cause an entire mechanized formation to lose organization so quickly? And what is turning the speed of armored assaults into a growing risk on the modern battlefield? Let's find out with military force. Ukraine is not stopping Russian armored assaults with one weapon alone. It is building a layered defensive system that turns a moving column into a target before the assault develops. The first layer is observation. Ukrainian reconnaissance, UAVs watch roads, tree lines, fields, and likely approach routes before Russian vehicles reach the main defensive line. This matters because an armored attack depends on timing. Tanks and APCs must keep speed, spacing, and direction if they want to bring real pressure onto a position. Once a UAV sees the formation early, Ukraine can read the shape of the attack before the first shot is fired. The next layer is movement control. Russian vehicles are often pushed onto predictable routes by terrain, damaged roads, mud, bridges, and mine threats. When a column enters one of these narrow paths, Ukraine does not need to destroy every vehicle at once. It only needs to slow the formation, separate the lead element from the rest, or make crews hesitate. In armored warfare, hesitation can be fatal because the attack depends on momentum. That is where anti-armor teams and supporting fire become decisive. Javelin missiles, other ATGMs, direct fire from armored vehicles, and artillery can strike when the Russian formation is already under pressure. A hit on the first vehicle can block the path. A strike on a following vehicle can break spacing. Smoke, fire, and confusion then make it harder for crews to understand where the next threat is coming from. This system is dangerous because each layer supports the next. A UAV does not only watch. It helps decide where the fire should go. A minefield does not only damage a vehicle. It holds the column in place long enough for another weapon to arrive. An anti-tank strike does not only remove one machine. It can force the rest of the assault to slow down, turn around, or bunch together in a place covered by Ukrainian fire. By the final stage, the Russian attack may still have vehicles on the field, but it no longer has the same structure. The column has lost rhythm. The crews are reacting instead of advancing. The assault begins to break into isolated problems rather than one coordinated push. That is why these ambushes matter beyond the loss of tanks or APCs. They show how Ukraine is turning defense into a connected process where detection, movement control, precision fire, and strikes work together. Speed, which should help an assault survive, can become a weakness when the route is watched and the trap is prepared. To understand how dangerous this system becomes in practice, look at the moment a Russian column approaches the defensive line and begins to lose rhythm. Many Russian armored assaults are failing before their vehicles can bring full firepower into the fight. The decisive moment is often not the final clash at the trench line, but the approach, when tanks and APCs must move through exposed routes while Ukrainian observers watch. A column needs order to survive. The lead vehicle chooses the path, the following vehicles keep spacing, and the formation depends on speed to pass through danger before Ukrainian fire fully closes in. If that rhythm holds, the assault can still threaten a defensive position. If it breaks, the column becomes heavy, crowded, and slow. The first disruption matters because it can turn movement into a problem. One disabled tank at the front can block the route behind it. One burning APC can force the next driver toward a worse position. One wrong halt can turn a moving assault into a traffic jam under fire. The loss of one vehicle is serious, but the larger damage is the collapse of formation. This is where the battlefield becomes harder for Russian crews. Smoke reduces visibility, explosions hide the road, and damaged vehicles block clear lanes. Crews inside armored machines often have limited awareness, and they may not know whether the danger is ahead, beside them, or above them. In those seconds, every choice becomes risky. Pushing forward may lead into another strike. Stopping may make the vehicle easier to hit. Turning around may create confusion for the column. From above, Ukraine can see the wider picture. While Russian crews are trying to understand the chaos from inside their vehicles, Ukrainian observers can track the formation. They can see which vehicles are moving, which ones are stuck, and which route the column may try next. That difference in battlefield awareness is one reason the approach phase has become so deadly. A mechanized assault loses power when it loses shape. Tanks, APCs, and infantry fighting vehicles are meant to support each other. Tanks bring heavy fire. APCs carry troops. IFVs provide protection and direct fire. But when the column is split, each vehicle becomes a separate target. A tank without support can be watched and isolated. An APC without movement becomes a vulnerable transport. Infantry forced to dismount early may have to cross open ground under pressure. Ukraine does not need to destroy every vehicle at once to stop the assault. It can break the formation first, then let the battle become more costly for each surviving machine. A column that once moved as one force may become several burning vehicles, confused crews, and routes that no longer look safe. At that point, the attack may still exist on paper, but its forward pressure is fading. This also affects command. When the first vehicles are hit, commanders must decide whether to continue, redirect, or withdraw. But those decisions become harder when radios are under stress, visual contact is broken, and crews are reacting to separate threats. The assault loses the clean timing it needed at the start. Instead of forcing Ukraine to respond, the Russian formation starts responding to Ukraine. That is the danger of losing rhythm near the defensive line. The battlefield does not give an armored column much time to recover. Once vehicles slow down, gaps close, and crews hesitate, the attack becomes easier to measure and harder to save. This is why the approach phase is now decisive in these battles for both sides. The outcome may be shaped before the first Russian vehicle reaches Ukrainian positions. When the formation is broken early, the rest of the fight becomes less about offensive power and more about survival. Once Russian armor is divided into smaller targets, mobile firepower becomes more important. That is where vehicles like the Bradley begin to play a larger combat role next. The Bradley has become one of Ukraine's most useful answers to Russian armor because it fills a gap between infantry anti-tank teams and main battle tanks. It is not built to fight like a tank, but it can move with armored units, carry strong sensors, deliver steady fire, and react quickly when close combat changes suddenly. Its main strength is the 25mm Bushmaster cannon. Against an APC or an infantry fighting vehicle, this weapon can be devastating because it can place repeated rounds into the same target area in a short time, forcing crews to react under constant pressure. Against a tank, the effect is different. The cannon may not always destroy heavy armor directly, but it can damage optics, tracks, sensors, external equipment, and exposed parts. More importantly, it can shake the crew, block their view, and make it harder for them to aim the main gun. This is why the Bradley matters in close-range fighting. A Russian tank may have a larger cannon and thicker armor, But those advantages depend on the crew being able to see, aim, and fire first. If the Bradley opens up quickly and keeps accurate pressure on the target, the Russian crew can lose the short window it needs to respond. The Bushmaster also gives Ukrainian crews a practical advantage against lighter Russian vehicles. APCs and many IFVs are not designed to absorb long bursts of accurate cannon fire at close distance. Once they are hit, they may lose mobility, catch fire, or force their passengers to abandon the assault before reaching the intended position. The Tau missile adds another important layer. It gives Bradley crews a longer reach against armored threats, especially when a Russian vehicle has already been identified by aerial observation or forced into a predictable route. The missile allows the crew to hit beyond cannon range and gives the vehicle a serious anti-armor option when the target is too dangerous to approach. Still, the Bradley is not invincible. It must use timing, cover, distance, and information to survive. A direct hit from a tank gun can destroy it, and Russian FPV drones or artillery can also threaten it if it stays exposed. That is why its best role is not to act alone, but to fight as part of a wider defensive plan where other Ukrainian assets reduce the risk of isolation and help select the right moment to engage. When a reconnaissance UAV helps locate a Russian vehicle, the Bradley crew can enter the fight with better awareness. It may know where the target is moving, which angle is weaker, and when to fire before the enemy fully reacts. This changes the Bradley from a simple armored vehicle into a mobile fire node inside a larger ambush network. For Ukraine, this is the real value of the platform. It gives commanders a fast, protected, and heavily armed tool that can respond when Russian armor is already under pressure. It can support infantry, punish lighter vehicles, suppress heavier ones, and create the few seconds needed for another strike to follow with greater accuracy. In close combat, those seconds can decide whether a Russian vehicle fires back or loses control first. But even after a Bradley or an anti-tank weapon hits its target, the battle is not finished. On this battlefield, damaged Russian vehicles can still move, crews can still try to escape, and the next phase is often decided by drones watching from above. A Russian assault does not end when its vehicles stop pushing forward. On the Ukrainian battlefield, the withdrawal can become another dangerous phase because drones keep watching after the first clash has broken the attack. This changes the meaning of retreat. In older battlefield logic, a damaged column might pull back, regroup, and return later with a new plan. In Ukraine, that window is much smaller. If a reconnaissance UAV keeps the route in view, every vehicle leaving the fight can still be tracked, measured, and passed to another strike team. The key is continuous observation. A reconnaissance UAV can follow a damaged APC as it turns away from the contact line. It can watch a tank trying to reverse through smoke. It can identify a vehicle that has stopped near trees, a building, or a road bend. For crews on the ground, the battle may feel chaotic and hidden. From above, the pattern can remain clear. That overhead view gives FPV drone teams a strong advantage. A moving vehicle is difficult to hit, but a vehicle that is damaged, slowed, or forced onto a narrow route becomes more vulnerable. FPV drones can close in at low altitude, choosing the moment when the target is turning, stuck, or trying to escape from the same corridor where the assault first began to collapse. Bomber drones add another problem for vehicles that have already been abandoned or disabled. If a hatch is open, or if a vehicle is sitting still after the crew leaves, a small munition can turn a damaged machine into a permanent loss. This matters because an armored vehicle is not only valuable when it is moving. If it can be recovered, repaired, and returned to service, it remains part of future combat power. For that reason, Ukrainian drone teams often treat the aftermath as part of the battle. The goal is not only to stop the assault in front of the line, it is also to deny recovery, force crews away from vehicles, and make the area too dangerous for repair teams or evacuation vehicles to enter. Retreat is also when command and control becomes weakest. Drivers may not know which route is still open. Crews may be focused on escaping fire rather than keeping formation. Radio traffic can become confused as vehicles separate. A commander who wants to pull the force back may not have a clear picture of which vehicles are still mobile and which are already trapped. This pressure can spread behind the immediate battlefield. If one damaged vehicle blocks a path, others may bunch up behind it. If a crew abandons a machine, another team may be sent to recover it. If drones remain overhead, each rescue attempt can create a new target. A failed assault can therefore keep producing losses after the main push has ended. That is why drone warfare has changed the cost of failure. Russian forces may survive the first ambush, but survival does not guarantee escape. As long as UAVs keep watching and FPV teams remain active, the retreat route can become part of the same kill zone. However, drones become even more dangerous when the target is first slowed, trapped, or forced into a predictable path. That is where minefields become the next critical layer. Minefields remain one of the most dangerous tools against Russian armor because they attack the one thing every assault needs most: movement. A tank can survive small arms fire, push through shell craters, and carry heavy weapons into a fight. But if a mine breaks its track, damages its wheels, or stops it in the wrong place, that vehicle loses the main advantage it was supposed to bring to the battlefield. This is why mines do not need to destroy a tank completely to change the battle. A mobility kill can be enough. Once a vehicle is stuck, the crew must decide whether to stay inside, attempt repairs, or abandon it under pressure. None of those choices are safe when the area is already observed and covered by Ukrainian fire. Minefields are especially dangerous when Russian vehicles move through smoke, confusion, or poor visibility. In those conditions, crews may not clearly see the safest lane, the damaged vehicle ahead, or the turn that might avoid danger. If demining support is missing, too slow, or already under fire, the whole column is forced to gamble. It can slow down and lose momentum, or it can keep moving and risk hitting another buried charge. The lead vehicle matters most in this situation. If it hits a mine, the problem spreads backward almost immediately. The second vehicle may not have space to pass. The third may stop too close. Vehicles behind them may bunch up on the same road, while drivers try to understand whether the route is blocked or still usable. What began as one explosion can quickly become a movement crisis for the whole assault. For Ukraine, this is the practical value of minefields. They shape the battlefield before direct fire begins, even before vehicles reach the trench line. They make Russian routes more predictable. They force armored crews into narrow lanes and slow choices. They also create short moments when other Ukrainian weapons can strike with greater effect, because a stop target is easier to hit than one moving at speed. This does not mean minefields work alone. Their real power comes from how they connect with the wider defensive system. A mine can stop the first vehicle, but the follow-up fire decides how much damage the column suffers after that. Anti-tank teams, artillery crews, and drone operators can all take advantage of the same pause created by the mine. That is why minefields are not just obstacles on the ground. In modern war, they are tools for fixing targets in place. They turn movement into uncertainty and speed into danger. For Russian armor, every narrow road or open approach may carry the same question: is this a path forward or the start of another trap? And when frontline targets are fixed in place, Ukraine can widen the hunt toward the rear, where reconnaissance drones and HIMARS can strike the systems that keep the assault alive. Ukraine's strike system does not stop at the front line. Once Russian armor is slowed, damaged, or forced into predictable movement, Kiev can widen the fight toward the systems that keep those assaults alive. This is where reconnaissance drones and HIMARS become important. A drone can locate a radar, air defense vehicle, command post, ammunition depot, or artillery position behind the battle area. It can hold that target in view, confirm its activity, and help pass coordinates to a precision fire unit. HIMARS then gives Ukraine the reach and accuracy to hit assets that are too valuable to leave exposed. The targets matter because they are not ordinary vehicles. A Panzer or Buk system protects Russian forces from air attack. An S-400 radar helps detect threats across a wider area. A command post helps coordinate movement, artillery, and reserves. An ammunition depot feeds the next wave of fire. When these systems are hit, Russia does not only lose equipment. It loses part of the structure that allows an assault to continue. This creates pressure beyond the visible wreckage. If air defense is damaged, Russian rear areas become more exposed. If radar coverage is reduced, commanders may have less warning before the next strike. If ammunition stores burn, artillery units may fire less or wait longer for resupply. If a command post is destroyed, the front line may still have vehicles and troops, but the flow of orders becomes weaker and slower. That is the modern kill chain in action. One sensor finds the target, another system confirms it. A precision weapon strikes it. Then drones return to check the result and search for the next weakness. The value is not only in the explosion, but in the speed between detection and impact. The faster Ukraine closes that loop, the less time Russian units have to move, hide, or repair the damage. This is why the battle cannot be understood as separate weapons working alone. UAVs, FPV drones, ATGMs, artillery, electronic warfare, Bradley vehicles, and HIMARS all shape different parts of the same fight. Some stop movement, some destroy armor, some hit the support layer behind the assault. Together, they make the battlefield more transparent and far less forgiving. From the front line to the tactical rear, the larger picture is clear. Russia is not only losing vehicles, it is losing safe movement in a battle space that is constantly watched. The battles show a hard lesson for modern armored warfare. Russian tanks and APCs are not being challenged by one weapon alone. They are being pressed by a connected system that watches, delays, strikes, and follows up before an assault can fully develop. This is why the loss of a single vehicle can matter far beyond the wreckage. When one part of the formation stops, the whole attack can lose timing. When the route is observed from above, movement becomes a signal. When support systems behind the line are hit, the next assault becomes harder to organize. Russia may still send armor forward because tanks and APCs remain necessary for ground operations. But every advance now enters a battlefield where speed, mass, and armor are no longer enough. The side that sees first, coordinates faster, and strikes more precisely will shape the fight before the other side can react. War is not only about weapons and battlefield victories, because every destroyed vehicle also reflects human loss, fear, and years of instability that affect entire societies. Understanding how modern warfare works helps people better understand why peace, stability, and careful political decisions matter far beyond the front line. If you want more clear analysis on weapons, battles, and the geopolitical changes shaping today's world, make sure to subscribe to Military Force.